to suspend all nuclear tests and close up a major test site. This is very good news for North Korea and the world. Big progress. Look forward to our summit. Good news for the president. Right now, experts are leery. Skepticism is warranted, but it's a big step in the right direction. Martha.
Quite interesting, nonetheless. Trace, thank you very much.
Yep.
We will have more on the North Korea question in a moment, but also tonight, we're taking a closer look at the role that James Clapper may have played in pushing the dossier. James Comey's notes reveal something that has kind of gone under the radar. That Obama administration Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, urged Comey to share the dirty details of the dossier with President Trump, then President-elect Trump, which, by the way, reports say that the president immediately saw that moment at Trump Tower as a, quote, setup, is what the president called it, even though no one bothered to tell him that the intel was actually paid for by Hillary's campaign. Now, on Comey's side, he says that he felt he had to tell the president-elect because CNN was about to go with a story. And you know what? 4 days later, somehow CNN was able to verify that, yes, the president-elect had sat down with these gentlemen and had been briefed by Clapper and Comey and Brennan. Here's the CNN headline that produced on January the 10th. Quote, Intel chiefs presented Trump with claims of Russian efforts to compromise him. And remember this finding about James Clapper from the House Intel report that at the time was slammed by critics. James Clapper, now a CNN national security analyst, provided inconsistent testimony to the committee about his contacts with the media, including CNN. So in his book, James Comey calls Clapper, quote, the leader I admired most in government. Molly Hemingway writing today, Comey's memos indicate dossier briefing of Trump was a setup. She's here in a moment to take us through the anatomy of that leak, as are Congressman Peter King of the Intel Committee and Jessica Tarlov joining us as well. But first, Catherine Herridge with the latest tonight on Comey, Clapper, and why the Democratic National Committee is suddenly launching a slew of lawsuits at Russia and the Trump campaign over the 2016 election. Good evening, Catherine.
Well, thank you, Martha. Tonight, the shoe is on the other foot, with Fox News confirming that Comey is under investigation for leaking the memos, whether he mishandled classified information, as well as his communications outside the FBI, including contact with reporters. As you mentioned, another former senior intelligence officer who oversaw the 17 intelligence agencies, Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, is also under the microscope. In the memos, Comey writes that it was Clapper who told him to privately brief the incoming president at Trump Tower about the unverified Salation claims in the Trump dossier just before the inauguration. Comey wrote, I said media like CNN had them and were looking for a news hook. I said it was important that we not give them the excuse to write that the FBI has the material. I said it was inflammatory stuff, that they would get killed for reporting straight up from the source reports. House Intelligence Committee Republicans found that Clapper provided inconsistent testimony to the committee about his contacts with the media, including CNN. But Clapper later disagreed, saying that he talked to the media, but only after he left government, and we'll know a lot more soon because that report will soon be public. Of the 15-page memos documented by Comey, 8 contain classified information at the secret, which is highly sensitive or confidential level. And that seems to be at odds with Comey's congressional testimony after he was fired by the president.
So my thinking was, if I write it in such a way that I don't include anything that would trigger a classification, that'll make it easier for us to discuss within the FBI and the government, and to hold on to it in a way that makes it accessible to us.
But in this very first memo in January 2017, Comey knew his conversations with the president were sensitive and not public information. He writes, I am not sure of the proper classification here, so have chosen secret. Please let me know if it should be higher or lower than that. Also, in a separate development tonight, the DNC filed that lawsuit alleging coordination between the Trump campaign, Russia, and WikiLeaks. The objective may in fact not be money, but getting the president and members of his team to answer questions under oath, Martha.
Catherine, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So my next guest sits on the House Intel Committee, a body that has been at the center of many of the recent revelations regarding the Russia probe. Republican Congressman Peter King joins me now. Congressman, good to see you tonight. Thank you for coming on the story with us. First of all, what do you make of the fact, it's almost surreal when you look back at this, that Hillary Clinton was investigated for dealing with classified information in a way that potentially put it in danger. James Comey exonerated her of that. Now you've got an internal investigator at the Department of Justice looking at James Comey for perhaps, allowing classified information into a zone that it should never have been in.
Yeah, I think Jim Comey has outsmarted himself by, he thought he was clever by leaking the information through a Columbia professor. He thought he was going to go on this book tour and, demolish President Trump. All this is blowing up in his face. And if anything, at the end of this, President Trump may be the last man standing. Andy McCabe right now faces potential criminal charges. Jim Comey has a lot of questions to answer here, including the fact that he may have leaked secret information, that his testimony at various times could be in conflict. And just his whole behavior throughout this, to me, raises the most serious questions. So and again, you have all the other people at the top echelons of the FBI who have been in some sort of trouble or other over the last 6 months. So I think right now, Jim Comey has hurt himself and raised very serious questions about his ethics and his behavior and perhaps his criminal liability.
All right, what about this lawsuit that the DNC has put forth against the Trump campaign and Russia and everybody else?
That's just the latest disgraceful move. That shows this is a political show from beginning to end. I would hope the judge would cite them for abuse of process. This is the last thing. Listen, I was against the special counsel in most cases anyway, but if the investigation is going forward, let it stay in the criminal realm or the special counsel realm. To turn this into a show, and if they're talking about Donald Trump Jr.'s meeting in Trump Tower, we've been through all that. There was absolutely nothing there. And so I would hope that the judge, quite frankly, would throw this out of court and really hit them with heavy damages for abusing the process of civil litigation.
Rudy Giuliani now on the team. You know him as a fellow New Yorker, of course. He says this is going to wrap up, that he's in the mix to negotiate an end to all this. What do you say?
I would certainly hope so. And, Rudy is the right guy to have there. And this thing should be wrapped up. Rudy does have a good respect and a good rapport with Bob Mueller. And again, if there's something there, there's something there. But I tell you, after all these months, and really well over a year now, 18 months of an FBI and a special counsel investigation, there's no evidence of any collusion. And I think they should wrap it up. They owe it not just to President Trump, but to the American people. So the president is going to be free to negotiate with foreign leaders and deal with the Congress.
All right. And a lot of news on the North Korea front. So we'll talk to you next time on that. Peter King, thank you very much. Good to see you tonight. Great. So here now, Molly Hemingway, senior editor at The Federalist, and Jessica Tarlov, senior director of research at Bustle.com. Both are Fox News contributors. Good to have both of you with us this evening. Molly, interesting piece today. Expound, if you would, on what you think. We laid out some of the elements of it at the top of the show, but about the vulnerability potentially for James Clapper in all this.
Well, and I think it's good to just step back and remember there are two competing narratives here. One is that Donald Trump committed treason by colluding with Russia to steal an election. That's really been the storyline that has been pushed for well over a year by many people in the media. The alternate theory is that, in fact, the Obama intelligence chiefs were messing around with a dossier that was secretly bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee, that it was used to prevent the election of Donald Trump, and when that failed, it was used to undermine his presidency and his first couple years of this administration. These memos that came out from Comey do not provide evidence that would support that first theory, that Donald Trump is a traitor who colluded with Russia to steal an election. They definitely provide evidence to support this other idea. And in particular, that this first briefing of Donald Trump when he was president-elect to tell him about the dossier was really done as a pretext to leak that. One of the things that James Comey says in his first memo is that yes, James Clapper asked him to do it, and also that he was doing it because they believed CNN wanted to run the story and they were just waiting for an excuse to do it. So it's very interesting that the excuse they chose was that James Comey briefed Donald Trump. That is a very interesting coincidence, and combined with what you also mentioned, which is that the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence had a finding that James Clapper gave inconsistent testimony about his leaks to CNN, or his conversations with CNN about the dossier, is also interesting in light of this new information.
He needs to answer some some questions on that. But of course, Jessica, James Comey would say, I was just trying to give him a heads up that this was out there and that the story was about to pop.
Right, and then that was his duty to do that. I would say, though, that I agree with Molly and a lot of what she was saying, what Congressman Pete King was saying here, and that I think there's a tremendous amount of damage being done to our institutions from this Comey book tour, from what is coming out in such a public forum about Andy McCabe and what he may have lied about or not lied about. I mean, these are things that I think we don't need to be privy to all the dirty details of, certainly this book at this point. And my real concern here is that Jim Comey is going to have to testify as witness in an ongoing investigation as big as the Mueller probe while he's out here essentially on a press junket. And I don't see how someone who was leader of the FBI and who does take these institutions so seriously can think that this is a good idea.
No, it definitely raises questions about that, Molly.
Oh, and also, I mean, these memos were written, that they were done in kind of an interesting fashion. That first memo is properly classified, and it's shared with Andrew McCabe and other chief people. The later memos are written almost as if they were designed for the purpose of a leak. They don't have dates. They're just done in an interesting fashion, in part, I think, because of what came out today, which is that James Comey is now under investigation for leaking classified information. He had already admitted in testimony before the Senate that he had leaked these memos as revenge, that he had wanted to set up a special counsel. But that they included classified information is the new news that has been confirmed. It was already surmised because 4 of the 7 memos did have classified information. That the FBI director was doing this, incredible.
Well, he never said it was for revenge. That was certainly not his wording. But I would also add that there is information also in there about the fact that Jim Comey thought that we needed an investigation into Rudy Giuliani and potential leaks that were coming out of the FBI. How did Rudy know about the fact that Hillary Clinton's email investigation was about to be reopened before that was publicly announced? So there is some new information here that isn't just all Jim Comey's completely unethical.
All right. Thank you very much. Good to see both of you. Molly and Jessica.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks. You too.